So, welcome back to a new episode of the Unclocked and Unbothered podcast. On this episode, I would like to welcome my guest, Colleen Lindberg. She is a spiritual advisor and wealth catalyst with 16 years in the business. She's a multi six-figured entrepreneur who works with leaders ready to step into the versions of themselves who are actually able to hold the power, visibility, and income thereafter. But we need to understand who she is first. 3 years ago, Colleen sold everything she owned, packed her 3 duffel bags, and moved to Costa Rica, a country she's never been to, where she knew nobody, had no idea what the day to day life looked like, but she listened to her intuition, and 6 months later, she was there. She calls what happened next an unshedding, a complete identity shift, and she's been building from that place ever since. Colleen, welcome to the Unclocked and Unbothered podcast. I'm so happy to have you here.
Yay. I'm like so excited to be here too. Every time someone like reads like my bio and stuff, I'm like, oh yeah, I did that.
Yeah.
Like I did that.
It's like a reflection, like, oh, if
Yeah.
somebody is telling you this is what happened in my life, it's really cool to
Yeah.
see that. And you have a really, really interesting story. I
Mhm.
think a lot of people can grab every little piece of this and feel really inspired. So let's just jump right into it.
Yeah.
My first question is, what did life look like before the business, before Costa Rica, like who Colleen was?
Well, if we go before the business, so that was like almost 17 years now. Actually, it was 17 years yesterday, which is even
Oh,
kind of
wow.
fun, like based on our recording, because I made the decision to jump into business on the Monday of May long weekend up in Canada. And hustler, wanted success, like was willing to do whatever it took. Like I was that employee that used to have like 3 jobs and I'd work full time. I'd go to school. I'd do this. I'd end up there. I'd work at the restaurant till 11 o'clock at night, then go home, do homework, fall asleep for 3 hours and go back to work. And I used to teach aerobics. And like, as you can tell by my like energy, it kind of made a little bit of sense back in the day. You can imagine me in my like tights teaching you aerobics and getting you motivation to not stop. And I was always a dreamer chasing the next thing. And like, I was just always in for things. Like when I was 23, I came across personal development for the first time and started like understanding that there could be more to life. And I was always kind of in it for that space? So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, yeah, that's kind of who I was.
Yeah, so you built your business, you've had your 17-year anniversary building this business. What like encouraged you to go from working like more of like conventional things? Aerobic seems really cool and all those little things like that kind of like inspired you to maybe go out of it. But you had like a 9 to 5 or like 3 different types of jobs while you were living in Canada. That's correct?
Yeah, and then I met a mentor who was running like a personal development company, and he ended up like what I call picked me up into the space of to join his team. And I started working like our weekend events. We started doing coaching together. We had all these things that were really well known in the personal development space at the time. Like he wrote books, we sold things, like did coaching stuff. And through that portal, I started to kind of like activate my pathway. And it was about a year into his work that intuition peaked up to say, it's time to actually go out on your own. And I had no idea what that meant. Like I didn't have entrepreneurial parents at the time. My dad started his entrepreneurial journey just like within the last 10 years. So it's like I was the first out of my family to say yes to this, not having any idea how I was going to make it work. And it was like one of those intuitive hits that God was like, you just need to trust. And I did, even though like today looking back, I trusted out of courage, but it was like one of those, are we sure we can do this? How are we going to make money
Mm-hmm.
at this? And I have so many stories about like, eating a bag of chips for 3 days. I didn't have enough money to pay for groceries and like how I picked up a check and then my gas tank ran out of gas as I was sliding into the gas station. It was like I have all of that back in the day, but I was just so driven to lead here and knowing something, like I didn't know what, but knowing something was coming through in the space of this. And yeah, I have like the first 5 years were like touch and go. Like 17 years ago, we didn't have the assets we do now. Like it wasn't common for things like we have assets now. We can buy a course for $7 and learn how to create a funnel that can multiply money. Like it wasn't like that. It was people weren't really promoting on social media unless you were like Brendan Bouchard, and it's like that's the space that I came into. And it was pragmatic, it was hustle energy, it was driving to meetings, it was networking and meeting people. And I just did it. Like in trusting, I just did it. So yeah.
That's super powerful. And I want to dive more into those days where you felt, am I doing this like correctly, or ever looking back, trusting that process and maybe questioning things, right? So when
Yeah.
you talk about the version of yourself before Costa Rica, how aligned was she with who you actually are like today?
Yeah, so I moved in 2022. And in 2020 was when I actually shifted the business model into more spirituality kind of work, soul mission activation work. I was doing some like psychic things, but I was still 2 feet in. Like, so I ran a very pragmatic business structure, like growth strategies, process development, franchising companies, leadership, like all that kind of stuff. And so and literally at the time that I started the company, I hired my first ever spiritual mentor. So both laneways were happening. I just never weaved them together in business or understood that I was holding that space because I was always channeling, but I didn't see it as channeling. I was like, oh, I think that or actually, the word I used was feel. I feel like we should do this in our marketing. I feel like we should make this shift. And there wasn't like statistics that said that we should. It was an intuitive hit that always came through, but I didn't realize that I was channeling at the time. And in 2020, I finally started owning, kind of rebelling against it. I was like, yeah, God, okay, I'll get to that later, kind of in my own egotistical fashion. But God made sure, or my guides, or spirit, or source, or whomever you like really chat with, made sure that I couldn't actually build the business anymore in this pragmatic space. Because every time I tried to just shift over here, I kept getting my knees cut off, especially through COVID, because of the fact that my businesses were all shut down. Like nobody was doing business. And I was like at this standstill, and God's like, oh, you're finally ready. And I was like, ready for what? And it's like to actually lead life in the way you're meant to. So for the 2 years before, actually really grounded in January of 2022. So 2021, I played kind of the game. I was like, okay, sure, I'll do it your way, God. And I kind of played the game, but didn't fully. And at the beginning of 2022, I was like, we're all in. And then it was probably about March that I got the hit to move to Costa Rica. And by October, I was here in this country. And so I was leading, but didn't really understand what I was leading in purity until I got here. And then I was like, oh gosh, yeah, I get it.
I feel like you were being initiated into things and you were getting these intuitive hits, but you were also just a human feeling it out in the
Yeah.
3D and trying to
Yeah.
trust the process. There's a lot of stories like that for myself where you are
Oh,
in like
yeah.
the corporate world or you're in the 9 to 5 and you're like, I know there's more for me. And
Hmm.
then you kind of just like forget or you ignore that little like whisper, and then it will be very blatant in your face constantly until you finally take that initiation. Exactly. Yeah, that's so
Yeah.
cool. Oh my goodness. So, you have 16 years of experience. You're clearly someone who has always trusted herself in business, even in times when there was cycles of learning, but there's a
Hmm.
difference between trusting yourself in work and trusting yourself in your life. So
Hmm.
were those the same for you, or did Costa Rica change that or really enforce that?
Yeah, such a great question. I believe it to be all like it's multifaceted for me. So there was never a separation. We could probably like battle this and debate this depending on who we're talking to, because most people say there has to be a separation in the business and the business has its own frequency. Yes, I agree. However, I do agree that I am leading this business, so therefore my frequency moves with the business. But do I always have to be on? No, right in the space of that. But in this evolution of trust, it didn't just show up in the business, it showed up in all aspects of my life, like trusting the release of my relationship, trusting God to take me to Costa Rica, because it wasn't a business move, it was an intuitive move. It was like, trust in the space of what you're feeling through your channel to lead your life, because I didn't know what I was coming into. I had never even been to this country before. Like I can't even say, oh, when I went for like 2 weeks vacation, I fell in love with the land. I had no idea, none, what I was walking into, like a none. And that was a full surrender in the space of everything. And then learning to do life differently, learning to slow down the pace, learning that the internet goes out every day. And now I'm in the city now, so like I've transitioned into the city, but I moved into the heart of the jungle. Like I'm talking about geckos and scorpions and snakes and like everything you can imagine in the space of stuff. The jungle kicked me out, literally. Like I made a move to the city 2 months ago because the jungle's like, we're done with you. You need to go. And I'm like,
Mm.
okay. So like it's like I lead life this way and I feel like it shows up in all aspects of my world.
Yeah, that's a really good answer
Mhm.
because I feel like when you are doing something that is based on your life's purpose, there obviously are clear boundaries. Like when you're living your purpose, it doesn't feel like work a lot of the time. And I wanted to
Mhm.
ask, like, even though you had intuitive hits for Costa Rica, what was the link there? What was the representation where it came to choosing Costa Rica, or you just went with it?
Yeah, I just went with it and I didn't like I obviously never been here so I didn't know the country and then I was like, well, where am I supposed to go? And then literally a woman that I was following on Instagram one day said, "Hey, me and my family are moving to this place called Uvita." And I was like, "Oh my God, that's the place I'm supposed to go to." And then literally weeks later she posted for a friend's rental property and I was like, "That's a place I'm supposed to stay." There's a whole other story around all of that, but it ended up I moved to Uvita, got the rental place there and life began. And then her and I met in person, and then we became really good friends. And of course we did. But yeah, that's literally what it was.
Wow, it was so aligned. Like you had the hit, and then you were able to follow that through, and that guided you here very easily. I always say if something happens, if you get an intuitive hit and you play it out, and it happens very very quickly, that was supposed to happen. It was like accelerating that quantum shift, and now you're here, and you've been here for 3.5 years. Is that correct?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's been, yeah, it's, yeah, 3.5 years. Absolutely. One of the things I want
Wow.
to just touch on that I'm feeling called to say is that
Mm-hmm.
I was looking and I was in awareness. And most people are asking for stuff and they're not paying attention, right? So I was looking for the answer. I was just like, I was like, where am I going to go? And then I didn't dwell on it. I didn't worry about it. I just let it, like, I just went, phew. And then all of a sudden I was paying attention and I saw the hit come through. So I just want to make sure I say that because I feel like some of us are asking for signs, but then we're not paying attention to the things that are dropping into our world, you know?
That's true.
So,
But it's
yeah.
also like remembering to be detached from the outcome. So you were
Yeah.
aware of it, but you weren't constantly searching for it in a validating way. And that's super important
Yes.
to also mention as well is there's a
Yeah.
detachment that comes with intuitively knowing. You can ask the universe for a sign, but you don't have to constantly be like looking for it for validation. You're just looking for it to
Hmm.
kind of like co-create this life and almost use your guides or use source to help follow that, but be detached to the outcome because
Yeah.
we get to make our free will choice at the end of the day. But
Yeah.
that's really good to mention as well.
I was young. I used to read those choose your own adventure books, and I would literally choose my adventure, and then I'd go back to where I made a choice and make a different choice and go down until I actually completed reading the whole entire book. Like
That's
I
so
was that
cool.
girl. Yeah.
That's interesting because another guest once said like life is like a your choose your own adventure book.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's really cool. I did want to ask something. I think about a lot actually because I
Yeah.
went through my own version of this when I kind of got fired. Like there's a
Mm.
moment where something like cracks open or a doorway cracks open, and you realize that the life you've been building, might not be the life that you're supposed to have anymore. And
Yeah.
did you ever have that moment?
I think I've had that moment like so many times. Like I call this whole landscape a game. And it's like so we're moving through levels in our game. And every time we like get to the edge of the level and we close the level, we're like, yeah, we got it. You know, like got to Costa Rica this is amazing. And now it's like, you're in this next level. And I really feel like these moments happen to us often. And it could be in small shifts or it could be in massive transitional periods like breakups, grief, loss of jobs, starting businesses, like all of this landscape opens up this palette for us. Our job, though, is to, just like you said, knowing there's something else here and having the courage to actually step up behind it to explore is one of the key elements of this whole thing. So like moving to Costa Rica, I moved to California back in 2017 and did the exact same thing. However, I had an SUV, so I could pack up everything into the SUV and whatever didn't fit didn't come. And I had my two cats and my dog in the SUV, and I had never been to California. And I did this exact same thing. Now, a little bit more rooted, still in North America. I had my car, I could drive, where Costa Rica was like, I flew with three duffel bags and that was all, in a
Mm-hmm.
whole different country, learning a whole new language and just integrating into a whole new way of life.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like Costa Rica for sure cracked me open, but multiple times throughout the journey here cracked me open too.
Yeah, yeah, that's a really good
Yeah.
answer. What's happened in my life is like these big transitional things, like a breakup, like a divorce, like getting fired. Like those things will push you into a whole different, like they almost force you to like be uncomfortable. But I even
Yeah.
noticed in the periods where I was kind of safe or comfortable, I was asking to be uncomfortable. Like I
Yeah.
wanted those big transitions, and usually the quieter ones or like the ones where your
Mm.
intuition is trying to push you but there's no big external move to push you more. Those are the
Yeah.
hardest to decide because there's no real clear direction. You just get this feeling that it's not for
Yeah.
you. So yeah, it's almost like giving yourself permission is the catalyst that kind of drives that next step.
Like one of my clients once said to me, "When's it going to be done?" I was like, "When you die?" Like I don't know how to answer that because we're here on a journey. Like we've
Mm-hmm.
chosen this landscape in this energy and we've committed as a soul in a contract to this experience. And yeah, sometimes it's depthful and sometimes it's traumatic and sometimes it's dark. And like there's been moments of time where I'm just like, man, how do we hold this? How do I keep moving through this? Like what does this look like for me? And those are the moments of time where we pull that light up in and grit in and connect back into self. And it doesn't mean we're always hustling or riding a wave or like being all positive and airy fairy. It's like we're in the truth of our rawness, but we're
Mm-hmm.
also not letting that landscape dictate how we're going to show up in the next phases of our world. It's like it is a journey. And it really, if we keep seeing it that way, like I keep seeing it as a game. So now I'm like, okay, it takes the edge off sometimes. So when
Mm-hmm.
stuff hits the fan, it's like, like how do I move through this? And it's like, okay, we're on a game board. Now what's the next move? And
Mm-hmm.
there's a ton of moves we can make, but most of us are thinking so linear that we only see it one way, where we've forgotten that we're playing in like matrix of quantum where everything is possible.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah.
And it's all like in our head, all of our perceptions make up our world.
Yeah.
And we come down to this world to fulfill our missions. And I
Hmm.
think the heaviness and the denseness of the world can kind of get us clouded into thinking that there's the ending or the end is achieving happiness, but you'll
Yeah.
realize once you get there there's a whole other up leveling. So whenever something like dark or deep happens, yes, you get the scary feeling of okay, but you also get this excitement of there's something new I'm going to learn from this. And if you kind of
Hmm.
can create your own perceptions when it comes or shift your perception when it comes to going through those motions, I think it can definitely help you almost expand your mind and like learn from it, because that's really what this life is about, is continuing to up level and learn from your experiences, right?
Yeah. Like you
Mm-hmm.
get the next key and then you're like, okay, see you later, Earth plane. And then you
Mm-hmm.
come back and you're like, I've already got all these keys. We're going down for another one. It's
Yeah.
like, yeah,
Mm-hmm. But it
yeah,
can,
it's fun.
it can still be scary to a lot of people, especially when they don't have the almost like self trust. And that's what I'm
Mm,
hoping what these podcasts give to people is like to instill or inspire them to maybe trust that calling more, trust that voice. Was there
yeah.
ever a period in your life, maybe like when you were younger, where you felt like you had these intuitive hits, but they weren't necessarily something that you would want to create your life? Because we are human, we get the free will choice to decide to take that leap or not. So yeah, did you ever feel like clouded in your own mind or it kept you stuck?
So I chose as a human, like growing up, to purposely do opposing to my intuition. So
Mm-hmm.
like, so if you can imagine what that journey was like, amazing stories, amazing stories. Like, it's like I went down all the narrow winding roads. I got all the t-shirts. I could tell you exactly how hard it was. And that was what I stepped behind in the space of that. But one of the key elements I really want to bring forward when you say this, yes, we have free will and we do. But if you have chosen a pathway, it's going to keep coming back and you cannot avoid it. So it's going to get harder and harder and harder for you in your world if you do not choose the pathway of what your soul, like literally contracted before it came down. And so when I started realizing this, I started giving up this whole rebellion against my intuition thing, and I started to just like literally trust the space. But there were times for sure that I would be like, holy shit, like, can I actually do this? I made a decision somewhere back in the day, probably maybe 20 years ago, that I would feel the fear and do it anyways. And there's a book that actually is written that is exactly that title, Feel the Fear and Do It Anyways. And I'm afraid of heights and I own this, but it never inhibits me from doing things. Like I've parasailed, I've what's the thing? Skydove, I zip line, I've rappelled off of buildings. Like I literally went rappelling down waterfalls in the shadiest thing that I could have done with my life, probably. Like out of everything I've done, this was the least safe because it's like you're just on this like teeny little rope on this massive waterfall in Costa Rica. Is just actually entertaining for me that I actually did this. But I felt the fear and I still chose to make a move. I still chose to maneuver forward. I still chose to say yes to life and yes to this action and be courageous in the space of because I wanted to feel that experience. And some of us, some of you might just need to say yes, even though it's scary for you, even though you're like, I don't know how to make this work. It's like the first making it work is the step to say yes. And then
Yeah.
everything else will back you. But yeah, we're human, right? It's part of our whole conditioning, that fear.
Hmm.
So it's just our job to be like, are we going to let that fear dictate our world? Or are we actually going to step through it now and use it as fuel to actually lead and get the life we truly desire?
That's beautiful. Yeah, no, it's move towards the fear, right?
Yeah.
Move and
Yeah.
learn from it. So that's amazing. I love that. We did touch upon a lot of these things actually about intuition, but now I kind of want to dive deeper into it. So you said that you had this intuitive hit from God to go to Costa Rica. And I want to understand what that actually felt like because I think a lot of people think of these hits and then they spend months talking themselves out of it. What made this one different from probably the 100 intuitive hits you've had? What made you really trust this one and go forward?
Well, I always like I had this experience like months before this happened, where and it's the most like mundane human experience, but it set the tone for everything coming after. I was about to take out my garbage one day and I got this intuitive hit that says you should take your keys. And I was like, why did I take my keys? Like I'm going down the driveway to take out the garbage. So of course, like so this is me arguing with intuitive hits, right? This is my
Mm-hmm.
human going, what do you mean? Like I don't need to do that, like in the space of that. So I didn't take my keys. It's the middle of winter in Canada. It's not like I go out with a coat. I'm wearing my hoodie and just winter boots because that's what you do in Canada with your sweatpants. And I go to take the garbage and I come back and my door is locked. Okay. And I'm like, how the door gets locked. It's hard. Like you have to turn the thing to lock the door and you can't do it from the in. Like it's like a whole thing. And I was like, what the heck is happening?
Mm-hmm.
Luckily, the day before, my intuitive hit says, you should unlock this window. And so I listened to that hit the day before and unlocked the window. Now, the window's 8 feet up and we're in the middle of snow. I don't have a chair. I've got to go figure out a way. And I'm literally tricep dipping my way to try and get up into this window. Like I'm 5'4". Like there's quite a bit of, intuitive energy that needs to go into that. But I remember this so potently that when the hits come in, I need to trust them. Like that's the
Mm-hmm.
whole messaging about this. So when I woke up that day, so I had felt an energy was coming through. I knew I was making a move soon. I knew it was going to be south. I actually thought it was more like Florida or Austin. And Austin's actually coming up into my field now, which I think is really kind of fun. But at the time, it was like I thought it was going to be Florida. And then literally I woke up that day and God was like, it's time. I was like, time for what? It's like, it's time for you to move. And I'm like, okay, where are we going? And I just heard Costa Rica. And then
Mm-hmm.
like, I've done this before, right? So I was like, when am I going? And they're like, in the fall. And I'm like, should I start to sell stuff now? And they're like, yep. And so literally that was the process. I didn't question it. It was that easy. I started to go, I had a 3 bedroom place at the time. So I started to downsize already. And I'm like, what do I need? Like, I think I brought 12 bags of clothing to Goodwill. Like, and I'm talking about jeans that I had tags on. Like, I had so much clothes. And even I still remember the photo the night before I left. I had piles of clothes that I was trying to fit into these duffel bags that I had to like literally outweigh. But that was it. Like that, it
Mm,
literally was that simple. And I just, based on all my experience before that, knew that I just needed to trust. So I did.
mm. It actually
Yeah.
reminds me of like the pivotal moves that I've done. I never really felt like they were intuitive hits. Like just what you said is
Mhm.
like if you keep ignoring it, it's going to keep showing up until you
Yeah.
finally trust it. And
Yeah.
now in this phase of my life, I'm really wanting to go full force. Like it's been 7 months of unemployment, like really just trying to
Mm.
figure out, no, like I need to get a job. I need to pay my bills. Like I have my own place. Like I need to have like da 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 da. But I'm operating in a state that only served me at that point in my life. So it's like
Uh-huh.
there's a different version of me like coming out almost of this like cocoon, and I'm trying to like use the same operating systems as I did before and how it worked. And I'm like, no,
Mhm.
it's not serving me. I need to go full force into this idea that I have, this podcast, this personal brand, this business. I've always
Yeah.
been a spiritual healer, and I've done that on the side for 3 years while also working my corporate job. And again, the universe is consistently showing me you cannot leave like these
Yeah.
intuitive hits behind. They will continue to
Yeah.
show up more forcefully. And now I'm in the state of like I'm getting these intuitive hits to be like, you need to travel the world. And I'm like,
Mm.
where? And they're like, yeah, you need to move back home. You need to have a like nest, like a
Mm.
home base, but you don't
Yeah.
necessarily need the external home that you've had that served you before. Your home is actually in yourself now. So
Yeah.
wherever you go, you are going to cultivate a home. And I'm like,
Mm.
okay. So what I asked recently, I said, if this is the move, I need one more confirmation from you guys. Please send me a purple butterfly. And just like you said, I was constantly looking for this butterfly, but I was seeing it in a way of almost like a validation sense. So last Sunday,
Mm.
still haven't seen the butterfly like a week up to it. I was like, still haven't seen this butterfly. I'm like, I don't know if I'm making the right choice. I had my mom come over and we talked about just like, the transition of moving back for a little bit from when I was 20 versus 28 and how that looks very different because I grew up in a very religious structured family. But I think moving
Mm.
out and getting to like they see my life, they notice. They've learned a lot from that. So
Yeah.
I right after that conversation, I remember it was nighttime and that's for the first time in so long. I'm from Toronto, so it's been cold. It's been horrible. For the first
Yeah, I
time, it actually
heard.
feels like summer here. So I was like, I'm gonna go for a night walk, okay? Like I'm just like, I need
Mm.
to go out for a walk. I felt called to go out for this walk. It's finally the perfect warm weather. And I took a picture of it, like this huge mural of purple butterflies. And
Yes,
I'm
of
like,
course.
wow. I finally gave myself permission where I'm like, I don't actually need these butterflies anymore. So I detached from
Mm.
that. And then the universe was finally like, look, you made the choice. And now, like, I'm going to show you the butterflies just to give you that extra sign that you asked for. But I wasn't like attached to the outcome. So you call what happened after, like when you went to Costa Rica, an unshedding. So
Mhm.
that was a complete identity shift on its own, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
So what started to fall apart first? And what parts of you like actually couldn't survive in that environment anymore or this unshedding that you talk of?
I looked at my life and thought I still needed all of these things. And the first thing that started to go was simplicity of living. Like, do you really need all these things? Like now, like I'll be making a move back to North America once my visas kind of come into play for the US. And I'm bringing the towel for my broom to North America. Like I'm gonna buy a few of them. Like they're coming. Like I will not do life with Swiffers anymore. It will always be in this landscape of understanding. And it was that shedding that came first of what do you truly need? Like I had all this wardrobe and probably 70% of it I didn't ever wear. And you really recognize the things like they don't use a lot of electricity. They have brick places where they cook a lot of their dinner. Like they live and breathe in minimalistic energy because it is a third world country, which we forget about because of the nature that's here and the plushness of the land. But they've learned to actually be a human. Like they don't rush to do life. We call it Tico time. Like when I first started going out for dinner, it was like, what do you like? Why isn't someone come by the table in 20 minutes? It's like, no,
Mm-hmm.
that's not what life is. You come and you are and you be in your life in this country. And so that was the first, like, let's say, unshedding of like all these things that I thought I needed to be or needed to have in order to live. And so,
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, what it sounds like is like the simplicity of life almost creates like this present time. Like everybody you
Mhm.
talk to, they stop, they listen, they talk to you. They're not thinking about the next step or they have to get the job done. There's no rushing. Um,
Yeah.
it's very different than here, like when you grow up and everything is what's the next step? What's the next step? Like you're always thinking about the future and you're always dwelling about the past, but you're never actually really present. So having those
Mhm.
like simplicity or you get grateful, like you get more like the ego sheds, right? I love that word
Mhm.
unshedding because the unshedding sounds like it's not sounds like you're removing something foreign. Unshedding sounds like removing something you put on. So like the
Yeah.
life that you
The
the
layers.
condition the
Yeah.
conditioning, all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff, right?
The fruit and vegetables and life that I get to literally nourish my body with here is completely different. And because everybody cares.
Mm-hmm.
Like when I used to buy shiitake mushrooms, the woman would sing to her mushrooms every day. Like, like that's just different. Like, I don't know how many farmers you know that are singing to their shiitake mushrooms, most likely none, right? But here in Costa Rica, that's how she makes money. That's how she spends her time. That's the energy she chooses to exude into the world. And it's just really, it's just a whole different vibe.
It's a whole different frequency because
Everything.
here, and
Yeah.
then you get to consume it and consume that nature. It's like this constant like cycle of higher vibrational energy and healing. It's probably super healing to your body too. That would
Oh,
be
yeah.
interesting to talk about as well. Is in North America, everything's very quick to um, medicine. We have a lot of like pesticides in our because it's just a quick fix, and we've
Yep.
noticed over time weight gain, hormonal issues, cortisol spikes. What was like the biggest like transition when you lived here in regards to your health?
Yeah, so I was always like, I grew up in a naturopathic household. So my mom, when I was about 16, started moving into naturopathic because she got fibromyalgia and the medical system, she was an RN, medical system couldn't help her. So she started looking at alternative stuff and transitioned our household into more holistic practices. So I always grew up in that. And I firmly believe, like I would, it would be so rare if I put anything medical into my body. Like so rare. Like I don't take Tylenol, I don't do any of that stuff. Like I am just connected to the flow, and I would take plants or colloidal silver or like other things and dynamics before I would do anything medically. So I was already in that space, and moving to this country like solidified my availability to get things that I wanted. Like you could go to the market and they have all these fresh mushrooms there. Like here's lion's mane I just picked today, and this is a reishi mushroom, and like I don't even know how to say the names of all the mushrooms, but it's like they were all grown on the land. And it's like there's so much power. Like cacao, like you can get cacao shampoo, you can get cacao moisturizer, you can get like it's all cacao is a big product here, right? It's a big thing for this region even. And it's like so life didn't switch off that way for me. Like homeopathy I had to bring from North America here, but it's like it just reminded me again that this is where I need to be. But yeah, it just living off the land and the frequency here is different. Like we're
Mm-hmm.
9 degrees from the equator too. So the sun is 12 hours every day.
It's a whole different lifestyle there because here the timelines are already made up for you. Like you have to
Mhm.
get up at a certain time to go to work. Your boss tells you when to eat lunch. Your boss tells you
Mhm.
when you get to go home. And what I'm hearing is like you get to decide what you want to do. You get to listen to your body. When you're hungry, you're hungry. When you're tired, you get to go to sleep. It's like everything you get to do is like that freedom of choice. Now, how does this work alongside your business? Maybe we can talk more about what you do and go from there.
Yeah, well, I can work from anywhere because everything I do is online. And well, I did launch some in-person like ancestral circles and things like that that just really make sense to like the vibe of Costa Rica. But everything I do is just like this. Zoom calls, I lead live programs and all the things. And when I moved, I was really doing more so like soul mission activation work. So helping people really align in what they're meant to do on earth and step behind that within power and truth and really own that space of that awareness. And then from there, as I continue to unshed, I really realize that I do a lot of the shadow work, meaning removing all the energetic blocks and the spaces of like, you're not feeling worthy to actually step up into this, or you're shit scared to get that moving in the space of that, and your mind is messing with you. My job is to help, move through that together to be able to get you into that space and power. And over time, it really locked into wealth coding and being an alchemist and really helping people when they're owning their soul mission to step behind it, to then create and co-create within the spaces of where they're meant to lead, to be able to have that wealth and lifestyle and have that liberation and freedom. And like one of the key frequencies I play within all the time is liberation. Like, how do we get you liberated? And for me, it's different than you, but it's that essence of being able to breathe into your life, to be supported, to lead, to like intuitively really connect into the space of why you're actually here. And
Mm.
so over the years, it's morphed, but the essence is still the same. It's like my job is to light lights, and how can I get you lit up in the space you're meant to serve within, to go out in the world to actually serve where you're meant to serve. So now I'm part of that ripple effect to getting you into that laneway. And
Mm.
yeah.
So your work is all about helping people set up the versions of themselves who can actually hold what they're calling, is what it sounds like the power, the
Yeah.
visibility, the income. So what does someone look like when they come to you who isn't maybe available to hold that and what they want, and what are the patterns you see almost every time?
Well, it's going to be different. And I like when people come into my field, they're ready to change. Like I'm not here like I'm not going into the basics. I'm not like teaching them like different dynamics of like trying to convince them that they're spiritual beings. Like, so
Mm-hmm.
they come into my field ready. And even though we may not be ever ready, because I really don't feel we're ever ready to do the work. Like we're not like, yay, let's drop into this darkness inside of me. And like, but we know we need to. So we're saying yes to the evolution. They come into a space most of the time where like, I know I need to do this, but I just can't seem to get it to fly. Or, I know I'm meant for more, but something just seems to be blocking the space. Or I know I'm meant to activate these gifts into the world, but I just can't seem to get into the grid of it. And there's just like, I don't do long-term coaching. Like you don't come into my space to do 12 months with me. Like most people come in for a session and I move the stuff, we get the plan in place, you're activated and you go. And some people are in my world for 3 months, maximum six, if we're really diving in to scalability and creating offers and moving it through and really activating that space. But like I'm the person that comes in, you're working with other coaches. I'm here just going, okay, come into a session, let's activate all of this and get it into play, get you the answers you need, get the plan in place, and you go and run, because that's just my MO, and I'm really aligned in my mission. So it's
Mm.
like I know where I'm meant to work within, and I know how this is meant to look, and I just confidently step behind it all the time.
You give the
So,
people the direction and guidance that they need for that open, but they need to be open to that space. They come to you with like that already being set. It's
yeah,
not
like I'm not
about.
going to convince anybody to do anything. You've got to come to me
Mm-hmm.
ready to action, whatever that is.
Mm-hmm.
And my job is to help create the clarity so that like you're fully embodied in this space and we're like, let's go make the moves.
You're
Yeah.
moving those limiting beliefs and you're working through that. That's beautiful. My goodness. Now, you're known for collapsing patterns and activating expansion at the identity level. Can you
Mhm.
explain what that actually means in practice for someone who's never heard of that language before?
Yeah, so like you were saying before about your identity in connection with work and being in the space of, and I was going to land it then, but you brought it back around, so it's so perfect. The version of you that's leading your business structure, making the money, making the impact, leading the podcast, doing all the things is here. And we have our identity of here, right? Our reality says this. So this is my reality. This is who I am. And in order to land in this space here, we've got to bridge the gap between these two identities. But the first thing is recognizing who this version of you is. How does she lead the world? So if you wanted $10,000 months and to be an entrepreneur and like travel the world, how do you wake up and show up every day in that identity already so you bridge the gap in that quantum field to make this identity a reality today? And she's not leading in the systems and structures of the past. She's making different decisions. She is investing in herself different ways. She's showing up in different ways. She's listening to different things. She's actioning in different ways in her life that then creates the frequency of this version of her. So when I say collapsing timelines and expanding into that identity, it's about taking this palette and moving it into today. So we're not actioning from the version of us today that doesn't have any money, that's unemployed, that isn't doing this, and that's blah, 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 blah. We're actioning from the version of us that's already making $10,000 months in sustainability, traveling the world. And although maybe you're not on a plane yet, but you're like, what would that version of me do? She'd wake up, she'd have her coffee, she'd journal, she'd write, she'd be in the space, she'd go work out. Then she'd create content and she'd step up into this and she'd launch this into the field, whatever the space was. And so a lot of the work I do is in the identity portion of bridging the gap between these two realities and firing her up, like for you, of course, firing her up to activate in the space of. So obviously, if men are listening to this, firing him up in the space to activate that. But it's like there's so much power in this because this version of you is already, if it's in you, it's for you, right? So she's already in the reality of the ethers in a timeline. Our job is to just bridge the gap and bring her to life. So.
Yes, yes. I think for me, without having like meeting somebody like you, it took me about 7 months to get that fieriness, right? Or I've
Yeah.
always had it in me, but being able to activate it, that took me a 7 month journey just by myself. And yeah, every day I step into like, even though that's not in my plane right now, I don't have the
Hmm.
followers. I wake
Yeah.
up and I do basically what I would be living like if I had the $10,000 months. You know, I wake up, I work on my script, I do the podcast interview, I do editing. I almost talk to people like when they ask about it, I talk like I have it already. Oh yeah, I am going to
Yeah.
be traveling to Thailand this winter. Yeah, it's like no, I have no plan, but I know that like I just need to embody that person. And it took a
Hmm.
lot of work and self trust and working through those limiting beliefs of being like, I don't like my voice. I'm not really like the best speaker, but that's why editing comes in. Fear of being seen is the worst one, right? Because
Hmm.
especially in today's society, people are cringy. Oh, I don't want my friends to see that. You know what I did? I blocked everybody because
Yes, good for you.
social media should be a self expression. It's always been that way, but it's been so clouded by performing and needing to be and feel like you need to perform or be somebody different. But you don't actually
Hmm.
have to be somebody different. You have to be who you are and your most authentic version. And yeah, so the systems of like putting money into a place to have an external home to feel like I can have that freedom is now
Hmm.
totally different. Now it's like I want to keep that money for myself to put back into myself to be able to have the freedom that I'm now looking for. So that's you touched beautifully on like what's actually happening and who you
Yeah.
are looking to who you are help activating and helping people embody because that's exactly what this podcast is about is being able to understand that you don't go from point A to point B without going very very deep into being able to trust yourself and embody the person to get to plan B or A to B. So you have a podcast and
Yeah.
it's called it's all bullshit, which I love
Yeah.
because it does exactly what the name says. What is the most common piece of bull you see people buying into right now when it comes to building a business or spiritual path?
Oh gosh. Okay.
Yeah.
Every time I say the name of the podcast, I smile. I'm
Yeah.
also writing a book on it, so it's part of like a movement. So the book's called It's All Bullshit. So it's like it's all coming together in that space. It's so fun. I could touch on so many aspects of this, but I want to say this, that you have to build it a certain way to have success. And one of the things that I've seen through the mechanism especially from some business coaches. And I don't want to just put them under the rug because some of them are fantastic and amazing. But there's a lot of them out there telling people they can only have success a certain way. You need to build a membership. You can only do it one to one. You can blah, 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 blah. And they're diminishing people's intuitive frequency and unique flow inside their business models. And that would be one of the first key things that I'd want to call forth is that every single one of us has our own blueprint inside of us. And the more we land in our intuition and the more we lead in that space, especially in business, the more connected we are to our clients, to our wealth, to all the things. And a lot of the mechanism that goes through, this aspect of like the world, let's just call it, is trying to put you in a box. And it's like you cannot, none of us should ever be in boxes unless we're really strategic and like systematized and we love being in boxes and that like makes you salivate. But in general, when you are leading your business, it can't be a cookie cutter way. Like we can glean inspiration from others and how, and you're like, oh my God, that feels really juicy. I think I want to take that on. But if you are only doing something because someone says that's the only way, it's all bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
I love the name because it just shows me that like everything around us is just a construct that
Yeah.
conditioning, and it's all bull because you can create your own reality. And what I've noticed is like even in the spiritual realm, like yeah, we're not going to like there's a lot of spiritual bypassing out there, or there's ways that is creating structure when it shouldn't be about structure. It's actually about embodying who you are and using your gifts. It's a
Yeah.
good guideline, but I don't necessarily think that, especially if you're someone that wants to escape a box, like don't jump into the next box, right? Now, like everybody has their own perspective on things.
Yeah.
And there's no like one way of doing it. There's thousands of ways
No.
and you can create your own way, right?
Yeah, we all should be in our own way. So even if,
It's
let's
true.
say, I have a membership and I do one-to-one work and I have programs and you do the same thing, we do it differently. And we
Mm-hmm.
need to really understand that that's how it's supposed to be, you
Mm-hmm.
know?
Yeah,
So,
yeah. No, I
yeah.
totally get it. So before we move on, I want to make sure people know where to find you and how to get into your world. So tell me what's available right now for you, but all the links will be in the show notes as well.
Yeah. So, well, Instagram's my playground. So come and find me there. And like all the authors I have currently are going through stuff. Like there's Linktree and all the things. And I just love people coming to play. Like that's what I call it. Like I'm very crass and bold and I call it out like it is. Like literally, I have a post going out today that's like the clients I don't take on anymore. Like I just speak it out into the world. So if you like that kind of stuff, come and hang out on Instagram with me.
Amazing. Yes, you can find her on Instagram, link in the show notes, and definitely look on her look at her link tree because there's a lot of free resources. Maybe start with the free meditation that she has on there. So, I want to spend some time here at the end because I think your story answers something that a lot of people are quietly afraid to ask. What if I followed the
Mm.
quiet knowing, not the dramatic sign, but the quieter one? Who did you become when you finally did that?
Yeah, well, I think that all of the quietness and boldness has led me to today. So, yeah, there's times that the sign came in boldly, but that's because it probably started off as a whisper, and then
Mm-hmm.
I
Yep.
I wasn't listening in the space of that. So it's like our intuition is a flow, and our connection to spirit is like a weave of this ribbon that's divinely led. And it doesn't have to be noisy or loud for it to be potent. So our job as humans is to listen to this. Like literally, this is our job. We came down, this was the beacon we brought to the earth plane that says, this will be the beacon that will take you on your pathway. And you're going to forget everything else except for this beacon. And somewhere on your pathway, you're going to remember it. And now your job is to follow it. And then as you follow, all the other pieces are going to open up, like your gifts, your laneway, your connection, understanding what pleasure and desire and true joy feels like, what it is to be liberated. It all moves through this and it all means something different for each one of us. But all I want to say to you is like the power is actually in those whispers. And every
Mm-hmm.
time you say yes to the whisper, you open up now even more and more connected energy to the ease we get to live within. We'll always have
Mm-hmm.
challenges because we're in the 3D world, but like it doesn't mean that they're as hard as they used to be when we weren't awakened, let's say.
It's true. It also shows me that like there is a lot of learning, but there's also a lot of unlearning to
Hmm.
remember. We come down with our missions. It's already written in a lot of ways, and it's just like unlearning the things to help you kind of get back to that most authentic path.
Yeah.
But there's nothing, I don't want you guys to take anything from this podcast and think that you made the wrong decision now that time hasn't come. It will come up if it's meant for you. You just have
Mhm.
to like learn from the mistakes or learn from the blocks that kept you maybe and stopped you from doing that, and continue to use your intuition to take those signs and lead you. It might take longer, but you'll still get there. Yeah.
We judge the pathway so much by time. And it's like when you actually play in the ethers, there is no time. So it's
Mm-hmm.
like, stop shaming and judging yourself for trying to get something into play. And it should have been done. So I should have been a millionaire at 20. Okay. But I'm not yet. Well, technically, I've done millions of dollars in the business over time, but never in a year's time span. And that's where my intention and devotion is now, is to be a spiritual leader that makes millions of dollars a year doing this work, because that is activating in its own rights in the space of everything. And maybe I should have done it 5 years ago, but it's like it's happening now. And so I'm
Mm-hmm.
trusting in the space. My job is to keep actioning. My job is to keep owning my power. My job is to keep stepping in, like doing podcasts like this, exposing, being visible, doing the things. And it's in me. So I know it's coming to life. And I'm not in charge of that timeline. I'm in charge of
Mm-hmm.
the frequency I hold every day in the belief that that's landing. So.
Yes. And you said like 5 years ago, do you feel like that person 5 years ago could be able to hold and embody making millions of
No.
dollars? Exactly. Yeah.
No, in my mind, my ego would tell you for sure.
Mm-hmm.
My ego would tell you 15 years ago that I should be a millionaire by now. When my ex-boyfriend used to say to me, "You should marry a rich guy." That's what he used to say to me. And then my ego was like, "You watch and see, buddy." And maybe it
Mm-hmm.
would take me 20 years from when he said that to me, but still, it would be one of those moments to be like, "See, I believed in myself enough to stay the course, you know?"
Wow. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. And what do you understand about your intuition now that you wish someone would have told you a lot earlier? I know you've always been very, very intuitive and you've trusted that, but I think because I think people want to trust theirs, but then they've been conditioned for so long that they don't know what they're hearing. Some people think of it as like a coincidence or like it's they can't fully trust it. So, what would you
Mm.
tell someone to help them better understand their intuition?
Yeah, so one of the things I feel called to just dismantle is that this myth that when you follow your intuition, everything is like daisies and roses. Sometimes you're in the middle of a massive learning experience that you're like, well, my intuition said this. I can't believe this is happening. It's like, no, you need to learn and grow through that experience, and your intuition was getting you there so you could get to the other side of it. So I just want to make sure I say that out loud,
Mm-hmm.
because it's not always the easiest pathway to go down. Sometimes it is, and it's connected and it like everything locks down and it's all in the space of, but other times you need to learn through that experience to have the asset to then lead through it later or teach from it later or gift it into the world later, right? So, but what I like today is just like it just comes down to the baseline of I fully trust it. Like I just
Mm-hmm.
every day I wake up and I lead and I just lead in it and I trust and I keep rooted in what I desire and I keep moving it through and I just keep trusting.
I want
So,
to add on to that because when we do have intuitive hits, especially as healers, we're tapping into potentiality as well.
mhm.
So we also have to intuitively know and carry it out as a human to see if it works. Because it reminds me of a story of like my last boyfriend, the person that I met, like my spirit guides, my spirit babies, everyone was telling me that this was my husband. That was a potentiality at the time. And as
Mhm.
things shifted or decisions he made or decisions I made to grow and the pathway was no longer there. That potentiality just did not work out in the 3D. But that doesn't mean you cling on to being like, no, my intuition or spirit said this. It's
Yeah.
now on a different timeline. So there's also the
Yeah.
fluidity. It's not linear. So,
No.
yeah, taking that and if it's actually meant for you, it's true. It does come back in a transformed way, but you have to be detached from the outcome when you're trusting your intuition. Because
Mhm.
you're going to learn from it. You're going to expand from it either way. There's no mistake of following your intuition. Last question here. What did you want to say to the person who has been getting those quiet hints for months, years, and keeps finding a reason to wait?
Yeah. Like I'll just step in. Like
Yeah,
stop waiting
exactly.
and just step in. And it's like there's nothing to be scared about. So all the things that you're worrying about and all the things that you created and all the storylines you've created are all storylines you've created. So what if you change the story to say this move is going to get me where I desire to go and you just step in?
It's like
So
when our brains think of like all the hundreds of things that can go wrong, you also have to remember
mhm.
the hundreds of things that can go right.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
for this episode, I wanted to thank you so much for coming on, Colleen. Is there anything else you wanted to say before we end off?
No, I think that we hit some really cool connection points. And I think that some of the listeners are really going to be able to take this asset and implement it in their life. And I just urge you to do that. It's like you don't know until you know.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Yes. But this episode was all about the courageous steps of moving forward in trusting your intuition. And I love how that was highlighted all throughout this podcast episode. So,
Yeah.
Colleen, thank you so much for coming on to the Unclocked and Unbothered. And I hope to see you again soon. We can collaborate in the future.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to another episode of Unclocked and Unbothered. My conversation with Colleen today is something I'm going to be thinking about for a long time because what her story keeps showing me is something I think a lot of us need permission to believe, that you can trust the knowing. The quiet, persistent, inconvenient knowing that there is a version of your life that is more true than the one you're living. And that's not reckless. That's what it looks like to trust yourself completely. You can find Colleen in all the links below, and I'll see you in the next one. Stay unclocked and unbothered.